And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Digital Green Book Podcast. I am Alana Whitaker, and thank you for joining me again today. As you know, I love to bring high caliber, high quality individuals before you. That's what Digital Green Book stands for. In addition, we are a Web3 ed tech company. So I want to introduce you to this phenomenal, amazing individual today. Nequosha is a lawyer from God. She's here to help us today. Thank you so much for being here today, Nequosha. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited, and I can definitely tell you I've never been introduced as a lawyer from God. And so I may have to tell my team to put that in my bio. My entry for always should be, hey, she's Nequosha Anderson, and she's a lawyer from God.
That's the way I see it because literally when I met you, so I recently met Nequosha at the Blacks in Technology conference in Orlando. As y'all know, I'd go to a lot of conferences, just meeting a lot of people in the Web 2 and Web 3 spaces. And this young lady was a wealth of knowledge. It's honestly my honor that she's like, of course, I don't mind talking to people about all
Yeah.
of the mysteries surrounding IP. And I'm like, oh, well, that's perfect because I have a knowledge deficiency in that area. So thank you again for being here today.
Awesome. Thank you again for having me. I am a wealth of information, and if I don't know something, I more likely than not know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who do.
Hey, that's what that 6 degrees of separation is about. It's like we all are this close to having the information that we want or knowing a connection of somebody that we want. So
And
let's
I,
get down.
yeah, for sure. You
Let's
are correct.
let's get down into the brass tacks of it. You are a lawyer. That is a respectable, serious, honored profession. What made you choose something so serious?
Oh yeah, I'm an attorney, licensed attorney here in Florida. I service people all over this great nation. And so what made me be a lawyer? So I had no intentions on going to law school, being a lawyer, taking the bar. I started off in tech. So I started off to be a data scientist. So my track was learning computer coding, background, hardware, the whole nine yards. I wanted to be a well-rounded computer programmer and data scientist. So that was my initial track. And of course, growing up as a Southern Black child, your parents, in this case, my father, was always, well, what am I paying for? And what are you going to school for? What is this about? And of course, he didn't have the requisite knowledge about what I wanted to do. So he kept asking me if I wanted to be a lawyer or a doctor and all these things. Well, I can tell you for sure I did not want to be a doctor, as my mom was a respiratory therapist for over 30 plus years, and I don't like blood. So that was out. Number two, I said the lawyer thing, I never really thought about it. And then it just so happened next semester, the institution I was at was offering a contracts in the law class. And so I took it. Um, and like as it relates to tech, it was like tech and contracts in the law or something of that nature. I took the class and fell in love, and the rest they say is kind of history. So I merged both of those worlds together. So and then once I got that knowledge, I recognized that a situation that happened with my father. He had a logistics company, and he had a certain way of doing what he did with his routes and his drivers and all that. And he had a Fortune 100 company contract. And once we got that contract, our life changed. And that's ultimately what most people are aiming for, right? To get that capital investment, to have life changing moments. But in this particular case, that life changing moment came at a cost, because when the Fortune 100 company discovered how my father was doing what he was doing, they ultimately data mined him, took it, and then we lost the contract about 6 months later. Fast forward to me learning about law, technology, intellectual property. I realized what happened to my dad, and I made a vow at that time that I didn't want that to happen to other small business owners, especially the ones that look like me, look like my family. So it's my inner mission to make sure that all my clients are seen, supported, and empowered in their intellectual property decision making, because I know what it's like to have the impact of capital investment. You came up with something and it gets taken away from you. And it's not just taken away from you, it's taken from your family. And that has lasting impacts. So that is my empowerment. That is my mission. That is my platform.
Sis, you know what? The funny thing is, when I seek out to have these conversations in front of people, just like we were saying backstage, like it just so happens I wound up hosting a podcast. I love having these conversations anyway. And I figure, you know what? I feel like these conversations are of value So it's my duty to have them in front of other people. And
Oh.
even just now in this moment, it's like you just taught me a few terms, data mining, heard it before, but now realizing like, ooh, okay, now that you said that, it just unlocks some memories. And I know 3 or 4 people that have been data mined before.
Mhm.
Like, and it seems like that's something that does happen frequently inside of our community. Like, we
Mhm.
come up with all these dope ideas. You've seen it on TikTok, even if it's a little dance and then somebody bites it, but it's fair use. And let's get into it. Like, what are some basic things that we can do to protect ourselves from being data mined? Like, if you could go back in time and
Mm.
put the necessary precautions in place to protect your dad from what happened to him, what was he missing? What documents was he missing?
One of the key things that I always say, it always starts with your foundation. So you need to make sure you are set up on your local level, your state level first. Make sure you have those things in place. Then before you can get to the next level, once you get that in place, then you can maybe start applying for things on a federal level, like making sure that if you're going to get certified as a black owned business and all these things, I'm trying to establish that you need to have your foundation set before the capital and all that, and get the attention of people before you get the attention of others and all this. Get the stuff set up, the not so sexy stuff of business. And the reason why people don't do it is because it's not sexy. Once you do that, you write down your system of operations, how you do your business, write it down, and there are methods that you can use to protect it. You can have non-disclosures depending on where you are in the process. You can have copyright protection depending on where you are in the process. You can then take it, that source identifier, if the people in your community or your industry are coming to know you for this one particular thing and know you buy this, then maybe trademark protection is where it's at. But ultimately, you can also have trade secrets. Trade secrets is where you don't necessarily apply for a federal tool of protection or a state level tool of protection, but you keep it in house. So you know how the black saying goes, what happens in my house stays in my house?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you think of when you think of trade secrets. What happens in my house stays in my house. And if somebody come asking you about what happened in my house, you don't know nothing. And we've all kind of had that conversation before. And so with trade secrets, you make sure you protect it, and you make sure you keep a list and you keep it under key. A visual or metaphor that I like to give to people to think of is the Coca-Cola recipe. Don't nobody know that. Dr. Pepper recipe. Don't none of y'all know what them 33 flavors is. That's a trade secret. Okay.
So, what I gathered from that, we need to write down SOP, so our standard operating procedures. We need to like write that down, and
Mhm.
then that gets trademarked.
No, ma'am. So, trademark is a source identifier for your project, your business, or your goods or service. It is how the consuming public comes to know you for that one particular thing. The federal
Mm-hmm.
government has said that they believe in stimulating commerce. And as a result of you stimulating commerce, they're going to give you a protection tool. So that way, when the consuming public comes to know you for your good or your service, and when I say good, I mean if you have a wrench it, or you've come up with a particular software as a service and everybody calls, can recognize your branding, or you're doing efforts to get awareness for your branding, you need to apply for a trademark protection. That way, because it's based upon classes, so that means that if you are creating a podcast and you call it podcast A, and you can't trademark podcast A, it's too generic, but we called it podcast A, and you are successful in getting federal registration, then that means no one in the podcasting space could ever go and apply for podcast A's name, because you already own it. And trademarks are forever. They do not go away like copyrights do. Copyrights are over after 70 plus years once the author dies. So if you created something, let's say you created a digital photograph, or you created a methodology that you written down, or you created a book called Digital Green Book, the how to get source capital for your technology project or something. I don't know. I'm coming up with it on the fly. You can copyright that, and it'll be good for the life of you, Elena. And then once you are deceased, your estate can take advantage of the proceeds or that copyright protection for 70 plus years after you die. And then once that 71st year is up, it goes into what we call the public domain. And then that means that people can use excerpts or however they see fit because there's no type of protection for it. The reason for that is because the government doesn't want people to have a lock on innovative ideas. They want to still stimulate creativity in the space. So they want you to have it for a little bit, but maybe not forever and ever, as Outcast say.
Okay, so what if I could make a short list of basic things that I would need, say as a new founder? Because, like we talked about, a large portion of my audience is founders.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
if they came in, so aside from writing down our standard operating procedures,
Mm-hmm.
what's some other items we would need?
So you would definitely need to make sure that you are operating in a entity level and not a personal level. The reason for that is because you are putting your personal assets at risk, and you most likely is the question. I ain't got no personal asset, girl. I got personal debt though. Well, you got a bank account, don't you? You may have that's a personal asset, and if something goes wrong and the law says that I was right and you did me wrong, guess what? I can get the court order to say I can tap into your personal bank account. Let's say you own a home. I can get that court order to do something, and I'll be your new homeowner. Hey, homeowner, it's mine. So
Mhm.
you want to think about separating your personal assets from your business assets. So create an entity. That's number one. Number two, get good on your why for doing this business. And making money is not enough, because most people say, "Oh, I just want to make $1 million, or I want to make money so my kids, or my family can be straight." Well, if that's the case, then you don't necessarily have to do this tech business. So you need to get clear on what your foundational why, and why tech, why this particular tech, why this particular solution. Because what's going to
Mhm.
happen is most people think the journey to entrepreneurship is like, when actually it's like, it is literally all over the place. So you need to be able to have your North Star to guide you when you get thrown off, to get you back on track, to so you can have a good foundational why. Once you get a foundational why, you need to have a clear and concise marketing plan, and don't be swayed by your marketing plan. Most
Mhm.
people, when they get into business, they're like, I just need to get some money. And no, you need to know who you're marketing to and how your particular solution is what they've been looking for. So you need to go get in front of them. Then from there, need to know how to sell them on your solution. So that comes with understanding. And you're like, but I thought this was IP. I thought this was legal. Legal is at every stage of this process, because you got to have the entity set up. Boom. Then once you have your foundational why, then you develop your marketing plan. Well, with your marketing plan, you need to be able to share what you're doing, and then have non-disclosure agreements with who you're sharing stuff with, because you can't trust people, unfortunately. But then when it gets to your selling, you need to have non-disclosure and some type of written contract with these vendors or people that you're using, so that it all correlates with every stage. From there, the same thing with your selling, the same thing, it just keeps iterating. There's different legal contracts and different legal tools you need, no matter what. Let's say you went and you pitched, and you're pitching an idea, and they're like, "Hey, I'm gonna get $10,000 if I win this pitching contest for my tech idea," right? Well, you won. And then they pull you to the side a few weeks later and say, "Hey, we're ready to distribute this money to you. What's the name of your company?" You ain't got no entity. Okay, well, we need to see your accounting records for the last 3 years. You ain't got no business bank account, and you dang sure ain't been keeping good records. Well, we need to know. We'll give you an additional $5,000 if you're designated as a woman-owned business, or a black-owned business, or as a veteran-owned business. You ain't got none of that. You remember how I was telling you in the beginning to go do the not so sexy stuff so people can actually invest in your business? Everybody's like, I need money, I need money. There's a cost in being in business that you got to accept, that will happen before you get this quote unquote windfall. It ain't
Mhm.
There's a cost in being in business before you think this windfall is going to come. And so you need to have all your mini ducks in a row before people will be willing and open to give you that money. Because I'm pretty sure when you go into these pitch contests or these other grant revenue streams or loan streams. People want to see the work that you've done to see how serious you are about your solution and to make sure it's actually viable and you're not play. You're actually serious about your business. So many founders will, I just need some money, man. That $10,000 to help me. Well, what are you going to spend the $10,000 on? Marketing. Okay, well, what's your marketing plan? See how I keep going back to the not so sexy stuff? This is
Exactly.
where people get confused and lost, or they'll say, "Oh, my cousin did my graphic." Okay, well, this capital investment is for intellectual property protection. What written agreement did you have with your cousin? I didn't have one. So guess what your cousin is now? A co-author in that logo or that graphic or that photograph that you did. So then they're like, "Hey, we signed up to do business with your entity. We didn't sign up to do business with a co-author." So
And
it all circles back to the not so sexy stuff in the beginning to position yourself as a founder to be able to receive. Remember, I know some people are not biblical, and maybe they don't, honor God, or they believe in a different higher power. But at the end of the day, I don't care what you believe in. It all requires you to put in the work first, and that way you will be able to manage the seed. They'll give you the seed, but if you don't have the tools and the mindset in place to actually harvest the seed, what's the point? It was pointless to give you this seed.
I had a second thought pop up while you were saying that, thinking slightly out the box. If anybody that I share my idea with needs an NDA to some degree, that way I can ensure that they don't take my brainchild, my idea, my even no matter what phase of the journey I am in. Like Digital Green Book, we're still between pre-seed and phase A. Um, if I'm doing a bunch of pitch competitions, is every time I go pitch, am I protected, or is that something founders need to be concerned about? They're out here pitching their idea.
Yes, so you need to be careful of the rooms and the spaces that you are in. So actually, I know the not so sexy part, you need to read the rules and the terms and conditions of these pitch contests that you're going to, or link up with a trusted advisor or source if you don't want to be the one to read these agreements. You need to understand what happens. They may have some disclaimers that says that, hey, X and Y, Z may be in the space. Anything shared is a public. You don't have any protection. We may use it. Heck, we may use you in our marketing material for future pitch contests, and you gave over your publicity right and you gave over the right to be recorded, and you gave up the right to be photographed, and you gave up the right to be you guys have to read these agreements because this stuff can come back and bite you.
So, what would safe way for the founder? Because that's especially in the Black ecosystem. Let's talk about it plainly. Most
Yeah,
Black founders, we know the stats as far as funding in this ecosystem, like
it's
less than
very,
what
very
1.
low.
So most people, because they know they have good ideas, they're entering a lot of these pitch competitions because they're like, if only somebody can hear my idea, I'll get the capital for my dream. So how would that double-edged sword sort of being in place? Do they approach the pitch competition with an indie? Or like, how do you combat
Most
that?
It's very hard. It's a balancing act, and that's the risk that you take when you're in business. Okay, and you have to outline, is the risk more in my favor than not doing it? Because oftentimes it's like, well, Nequosha, if I do this, then I'm gonna be risk adverse and I ain't gonna do nothing. I ain't gonna get no money, girl. And I'm with you. I understand. So it's a balancing act that you have to say, well, how many people are likely to enter this pitch contest, or how many people with my solution will be entering this contest? What are my odds against these people? Or do I have my ducks in a row to that way I'm going to stand out and I'm more likely than not to elevate to the next level to actually get this seed money? What are they asking me to give up to be a participant in this pitch contest? Is it worth it to me to give up this particular idea, this particular pitch deck, or this particular style? You have to do a balancing act, and that's something internally that goes back to your foundational why. Because remember, entrepreneurship is not a linear track. It's a So you have to be able to be confident enough to say, based upon my marketing plan, based upon my business plan, this aligns well. For instance, if you are a nurse and you have a solution to where kids, you know how to draw blood from kids in a fast and efficient way, even if they move and all these other things, like you've come up with a methodology or some type of resource to help that. Because if you're a parent, I'm a parent, and my child hates going to the lab to get her blood work drawn. It is like a disaster. Nurses or what are the people who draw blood? I don't know the name.
Phlebotomist.
if
Phlebotomist.
y'all if y'all can come up with a way to get these kids to do it where they ain't, y'all sitting on $1 billion idea. Okay, moving right along. um, let's say you have that particular idea, right? Well, if you're pitching to an organization that is geared towards helping Black nurses or Black uh, techs who do that, then the likelihood of, okay, cool, this is highly something I want to risk. This is something I want to risk because this is my community, this is my people, this is my foundational why. It's answering check, 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 check. It's more likely than not to get me to my desired outcome. It's worth the risk to me. I'm gonna do it.
Hmm.
But if you over here and you like, okay, they just said pitch contest for new businesses, they don't have a synergy into who can get into the pitch contest, and then they asking me to give them this and that and this, and okay, this is not my synergy of people. There's 1 million people in this pitch contest. I don't know if this is in alignment with my North Star or my foundational why. You see how I went back to the not so sexy stuff to make some hard decisions? This is
Yeah.
what people have to do when you are debating on to take a next step in your business.
So, if you were a founder with an idea and you were in pre-seed or phase A, which a lot of us in this space are,
Mm-hmm.
what would be some of that? So, step one, do some of the non-sexy things. If you have a standard operating procedure, write that down. I'm assuming trademark your name.
Oh yeah.
What are some other items that you would have them do right now?
I would have them understand who am I working with. So if I have a team of people, what is my relationship with these team of people? What is their current work ethic? In the event that we did get a life-changing investment, how would these people handle that? Do they have the proper mindset to handle that? There are a lot of business owners who have partners or founders who have partners or agreements or a strategic board or all these different type of pre-seed investors who are looking for certain outcomes to happen in business. So you need to be clear on who you're doing business with. Who are you laying in bed with? Because they could sabotage you. So you want, yes, honey. There are many a founder who have, this is my partner, this is my that. And then the money started rolling in and the money is gone and it didn't get spent on what you wanted because this person had never came into contact with that amount of money before and they blew it on something else or the money is gone. And then the founder is like, oh my gosh, what, like you were passionate about this idea. You were passionate about your solution. This is your reasoning for doing something, but you partner with someone who said they had the same mission, the same passion, the same everything. But when it came to when y'all finally got some money or some investment, they couldn't handle it and then they sabotaged you. So you need to know who you are in business with, and you need to have agreements as to who's going to do what, when, where, and how.
What does
And
that type of agreement look like? Like, say, because I know a lot of people are sole member LLCs, but if with their entity, however it's structured, if it's like two or more people, what would an agreement like that look like?
so you need to have a general operating agreement if you are a limited liability company. Even if you're a single member limited liability company, you need to have an operating agreement that establishes who's in what role, who's responsible for what, when, where, and how. And then you also need to keep up with a running, like a ledger of the actions that the business took and when they took it. For instance, entered this pitch contest, did on this day, this time, sent over our pitch deck, version A. You can have a separate glossary of what pitch deck version A included. So that way you can track. You need to have great records on who did what, when, where, and how, because that can come back and bite you too in some of these contests, because people want to know, well, how many places are you pitching? Where did you pitch them to? What level were you when you pitched these people? Because some pitch contests will say, hey, we'll give you $50,000 for a percentage of ownership, or we'll give you X, Y, and Z for that. So then you got somebody else who got a say so in how your business is ran. So you got to be clear on your foundational why, where you want to go, and how you want to get there, and with who. So the agreement you need is an operating agreement. You don't have an operating agreement, have a partnership agreement. Have a clear understanding of who's going to do what, when, where, and how, and what happens if that don't. So many times I've seen businesses crumble because one person is doing more of the work than the other person. And then when capital, you get funded and some steam starts happening and you start moving along, you can't sustain it because that person want to come in and say, oh, well, we in this together, right? And you looking at like, you weren't with me in the gym. You weren't up at 1 a.m. You
Now
weren't
you
up.
went with me in the gym. Wait a minute.
You want to wait, hold up. You just, well, my name on it. Yeah, your name on it. And I need to figure out how to get your name off of it. Because you ain't helped me at all. You ain't researched how to do this code. You ain't researched how to do this marketing strategy. You ain't even called and pick up the people to get us in this contest.
Y'all, if y'all have any legal questions for Nequosha, this would be the time to drop them in the chat. I done got a few texts from people saying I ain't got no operating agreement. I done got a few text messages. So this is a very pertinent conversation because especially in our community, which is a lot of bootstrapping going on, a lot of people, they're just like, let's go, let's execute. These things are an afterthought, frankly. So this is a very good reminder of a conversation. Like we ain't even got to the federal level trademarks and all that yet. We sitting up here just talking about what's your daily operating procedures. What is your operating agreement? Are you documenting what you're doing on a daily basis? Like there's a lot of things I can get better with within my own business just off the basis of what we're talking about right now. And I see some of my friends, they don't have some of this stuff either. So this is relevant. So
This
in
is
your
extremely
day-to-day,
relevant because let's say I'm a potential investor and I ask you, well, what uh, outcomes have you had in the last 6 months?
yeah, I'm gonna say
Well,
conversion, education,
how?
community events.
How? And what was the conversion of that? How successful was that? How did you measure the success of that? How many community events did you have in the last 6 months that actually converted to into some type of investment? Who are the other investors? How did you meet them? How do you know them? How are you keeping in contact with them?
I can get better at tracking those metrics. A lot of what I do, I would say, is not to use a legal term, but pro bono. Like we're doing a lot of community education in an area where most people don't have knowledge. So we're going in understanding that there's a learning curve. So our how we track engagement is how many people want to come back and take subsequent classes with us.
Is
Person.
there a level of data capturing that you're getting to understand their actual level of understanding for when they start at your event versus when they
That is
leave?
what that's what we're working to get better at capturing, to be honest. We do have like a loyal customer base that comes back a lot, but as far as the systems we have in place to capture data, that's something I definitely need to get better at personally.
So this is what I mean with the not so sexy part. Everybody want to get to the give me some money, give me some money, give me some. I need the money.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, what you gonna do when you get it? Like I need to know. And so this is where most businesses, I don't care if you're black, whatever, but primarily for us, we fail because we don't do the not so sexy part, the non being in front of people, the non want to take the photograph, the non want to flash the logo or get a t-shirt made that got my business on. I'm official. You don't have a business bank account. You ain't
No, we
filed
definitely
none.
do. We do.
You don't have a business account for me to even make an investment in. How I'm gonna give you this money? How make it easy for me to invest in you. So sexy part. Are you This is a question I want founders. Am I making it easy for people to know about my business? Am I
Mm-hmm.
making it easy for people to learn from my business? Am I making it easy for people who see the growth, see, understand, and bought in to buy from me? And because we're so quick to get investors, but what about the consuming public that you want to help? Are you making it easier for them to know about you, to know about your solution? There's so many people out here with the problem that you have the solution for, but do they know about you? And don't just think I did my 1 or 2 social media posts, I'm good. No, baby, no, fam. That ain't it. That's not the route you got to take. I'm so sorry. And I understand people like, well, I just need to get in front of the right people. Well, what strategies do you have in place to test to make sure you're getting in front of the right people? What efforts have you done? Who have you communicated to? And
Mm-hmm.
this is how most people succeed in business, and it's so simple, it works. Be of service. Be of service. I've gotten more opportunities as a lawyer serving others than I have. Hey, I'm a lawyer and I can help you. And I think it would be great if you allow me to help you because I can help you and da da da. But you saw me in the streets, you saw me in the community, you saw me helping, and you go to someone that you in the industry or your sector in your community, and you ask them, "How can I be of help to you right now? What do you need help with the most?" You may not be the one to help them, but you might be know somebody that you can refer them to, know someone you can connect them with. This is how you grow your business without you being in every room. This is how you succeed because it's when you, for instance, we were at a conference, we started talking. You say to me, "Hey, I have a community. They need to hear this message. Let's go."
Yeah. The power of networking is has definitely changed my life in the last year and a half. I would definitely say going to conventions is one of the best ways to build out a network because you're definitely around people who have a similar passion for you. And then just asking questions, not being afraid to ask that question. Like, who else is doing what I'm doing? Can we talk?
And I
What?
agree, but there's another level to that that I need people to know about.
Mm,
And the money is always in the follow up. How are you following up? And not just saying, "Hey, I got this idea." No, it's, "Hey, you said X, Y, and Z. You did X, Y, and B. And that stood out to me. And this stood out to me in this way. And based upon what I've learned so far, you value 1, 2, 3. And those are similar values. And I would love to know how we can expand upon those similar style values. Number one, you followed up. Number two, you didn't just give me the fluff and try to sell me on something that I probably ain't even interested in. Number three, you did a little research about me to figure out that these are my values. This is what I like. I'm interested in this. And you want to talk about that. So then we're going to build a relationship. And then if I value the relationship, guess what I'm going to do? I may, you know what? Such and such, I met somebody who doing something very similar. Let me connect y'all.
I think that's perfect. So one of my missions inside of the space is also to be a super connector because I meet so many dope people, and connecting people who have to people who are seeking is a skill. So that's something that interests y'all. Please just do it. Just go out there and do it. Just connect people. A question that I have from my texts are
Yay.
how do founders how do founders afford legal services while they're in startup phase?
So there are ways you can afford legal services while you're in startup phase. Some law schools have legal clinics. You can do your research to determine which law school they have them by different sectors of the law. Like there are some that have IP clinics, family law clinics, criminal law clinics. These are law students who are student clinicians, and they are under the purview of a professor who's a licensed professional, and they may be able to offer you some legal services at a rate that might be more in compliance with what you're looking for. There are also opportunities at local voluntary bar associations that might put on events. For example, this past Saturday, I was at an event for local veterans at the community legal services that offers pro bono if you meet the certain criteria to get the services. We did it for veterans. So there's ways you can get the help you need. Um, but understand that it may come with a little bit more time because you got to do a little bit more research to seek it out. The benefit of having the capital, of course, is that eliminates that time type of investment, and you can get a lot faster. Do your research about professionals in the intellectual property space. Not all are made equal. Um, Although they can practice in all 50 states when it comes to that federal law, some of them only know one aspect of it. They can't tell you a lot of the business stuff because they don't know how to run a business. And so, as a business and intellectual property attorney, I can understand where you are in your process and probably help guide you a lot faster and better. Because I've been around business since I was 13 years of age. My mom's now an accountant. My father had a successful logistic company. He's passed away this last January, but we still have the logistics company right now. So it's not nothing in business that you're probably going through that I haven't seen. And then I have a tech background, so that makes me a lethal weapon.
Let's go, Lethal Weapon. Another question that we have is if you if you've already started IP proceedings, I'm not sure what IP proceedings specifically they're referring to. If you've already started IP proceedings, how long do you have to follow up on them? Not sure what that
Okay,
means.
so I would love a little bit more clarity to answer it because legal proceedings, are you in a lawsuit? Like you're suing someone?
Y'all
Have
better
you
clarify.
have you applied for a particular protection tool like a copyright or a trademark and that's pending? Um, Whether that's on a state level or a federal level, I would need a little bit more information.
Pending documentation, applied for copyright. Haven't heard back yet.
So copyright, if you applied, it goes upon volume. So when you applied, they gave you a number. You can definitely seek out that number and see the status of it. Maybe it's registered and you just didn't see the copyright certificate in the mail. You can always give them a call at the 1-800 number. A lot of the agents are very resourceful and happy to give you a status update. But remember, it's based upon the volume that they receive. And sometimes the wait period can be 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or even longer. It just depends on the volume of where they are with the applications. I hope that helps.
I hope so too. Let's see. The next one is, do I need copyrights in every state if I sell items online, or do I need a federal copyright?
So, copyright protection is a federal tool, so that means you'll get protection in all 50 states. It's not something that you do in each state. If you're looking, most people have this understanding I need to copyright when actually they're looking to trademark. So, let me just go briefly the difference between a copyright and a trademark. So, when
Please.
you need to know which tool is it for me, copyright protects the entirety of a project. The entirety of a project. For instance, if you have, I'm looking for something, but I can't grab it. If you have a book, that's the entirety of the project, the entire contents, photograph, music, song lyrics. A copyright protection protects the entirety of a project. Trademark protection turns on how people identify the project. What they calling it? What you calling it, girl? So like your phone them call me. So trademark protection is based upon what you call the project, how the consuming public will come to know you as the trusted source for that particular good or service. For instance, my in the upper, sorry, in here you'll see this A. That is my trademark. You see that A, you know it's this Anderson Law Firm, okay? That is my trademark, okay? That right there. But if I gave you a guidebook with that logo on it, The guidebook will be considered copyright because I'm protecting the entirety of the guidebook. So I was a budding photographer, let's rewind. I am a tech founder and I have source code. My source code would be considered copyright. But understand there's a particular nuances when it comes to that. And I advise everyone to seek out appropriate legal counsel. I'm happy to help as it relates to protecting your source code. If you are a tech founder and you have a trade secret, like your methodology behind your tech, you don't want necessarily to put it in the public, but you still want to protect it. There are certain things you need to do to protect your trade secret and maintain the trade secret. Because as soon as you disclose it of anything or it becomes public, your trade secret protections, if you knowingly did it, go away. But if you unknowingly did it or someone else unknowingly did it, and you got to then mount up and then get some IP proceedings to capture it before the distribution goes too far.
Girl, so you personally, for your own business, utilize both copyright and
Oh,
trademark.
most definitely. All businesses should. I highly agree. And in my opinion, and I will fight you with Air Maxes and Vaseline in any day of the street, you need a trademark. You need a trademark for your business. Most businesses that have a trademark are much more successful than those that don't. And I'll fight anybody. Go let me know when my Vaseline and my Air Maxes need to come on and we can scrap. Because
I
I
don't know. It's
believe
got
in.
like Black Air Force energy over there. I don't know.
I mean, look, I ain't never scared.
Outside of the club. Anyway, no,
And you think I'm a what? No, I'm joking. I'm sorry. But this is the
yo,
beauty of hiring people who look like you, who come from the same space as you. They understand you in ways and they can convey and explain your product or your good and your service in ways that is actually more beneficial and understand your point of view. Oftentimes, we may explain our concepts and things to people who may not have similar style experiences and they dismiss it. And then a few years later, they be real regretful because they had an opportunity just because they lacked the understanding. At the conference, I'm not sure if you were in the room, but I did explain that Black attorneys make up 5% of the entirety of the profession in the United States.
5%. Yo,
We make up 5%, and intellectual property attorneys make up 2% of the entirety of the profession. And that number is significantly decreased when it comes to people of color who practice IP law. So please keep that in mind. We are unicorns. But we are out here and we are definitely advocating to protect us because we are the sauce makers of the world. We
come on,
create
stop
a
playing.
lot of the content, but we don't have the monetary investments to show for it. But we can change that if we have that not so sexy start to establish what is ours. Because there's a difference between being a creator and actually being the rightful owner. And when we get that mindset, it will change our funding ability and our entirety earning potential and growth for our businesses.
I told y'all she was a gift from God. It's crazy. The more I learn about stats inside of this space, like how many of us have so many dope ideas, and then you learn about things, systemic oppression and stuff like that, and then you start learning about funding, and then the disparities in percentages there, and then you're like, okay, well, what about the education deficit? So these public conversations are necessary, very
Very much
necessary. I
so.
know I've learned a lot inside of the span of this conversation and just from the questions that I've seen and gotten answered, because those are questions I didn't even think to ask. People
Good.
need this
Yay.
info. Oh, I would love to have you on again because there's so many other nuances
Oh, baby,
inside.
we didn't even touch the surface of it, but I do have a resource. I think I have access to the chat. I don't. If not, you can find me on Al Gore's Internet's people. I will definitely give it to you. I have a Trademarks 101 free resource. It's a quick little video. It's about 30 minutes. You can listen to it. You can watch it. You can do it while you cleaning. You could do it while you prepping your Thanksgiving menu. Beans, greens, tomatoes, lamb, hog, maul. You name it.
You
Uh,
name it.
you can listen to it there and just become educated. And if you believe that, hey, Nequosha, I'm ready to trademark, I know that this is what I want to do, then go to the trademarkspecial.com, because for the entirety of the month of November, I am doing a trademark special where you can get it filed at a discount rate for the entire month. So I understand what it's like to be a business owner, and there's also payment plans. So you can get set up. I wanted more people to get these types of intellectual property tools because it's so important. So yeah.
That last question. Let's
All
leave
right.
on something important.
Okay.
So all of this is important, but super important. A lot of founders in this space, like you said, are making software or are making apps of some type.
Mhm.
What are other types of protections they might not be thinking of outside of just trademarks and copyrights? What are some things that they probably also definitely should be considering?
So oftentimes our people aren't coders, so they will link up with people who have these businesses that say, "Hey, we'll develop your app for you. We'll help you code your app. We'll bring it to life." Make sure you're clear on what the terms of engagement mean for that particular relationship, because you may be signing up for someone to be a lifelong partner in your business, and they only helped you in one phase. And so
Mm.
that means you may be giving up actual equity of your business when you don't want to. So I understand a lot of us are like, "Well, Nequosha, I can't code." That you need to understand, is that a risk you want to take, and just be informed. I'm not telling you not to enter those types of agreements. I'm just wanting you to be more informed so you can make better decisions in your business planning.
Hmm. Girl, there's so many things because we do a lot of favors for each other, and it's like, dang, is that equity? Dang, is that
Is that
dang?
co-ownership? Dang, is this gonna come back and haunt me when I do get seated and they start telling me to go down the history of who helped me, and I ain't got no type of log or journal or nothing? And then my cousin is like, "Hey girl, you see that swirly thing? I did that. Run me my money." And you like, "Pookie, get out my face." Then Pookie gets somebody to educate Pookie that Pookie is actually a co-creator in your app, and Pookie got some rights.
Ooh, wow. This was very informative for me today. I know the audience definitely got a lot of information out of this. Please, y'all take a minute and follow Nequosha on all her socials. I'll make sure I drop some
Yes,
up there. And
Esquire44 on Instagram, Nequosha Anderson on the Facebooks. I'm
the face
and I'm Nequosha on the Tiki Taki.
not on the tiki taki, not on the tiki taki, but definitely. And this will be available on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and in a few weeks on Spotify and Apple Podcast as well. Be sure to distribute this with your network because we need this information, y'all. This isn't some we can just say we got great ideas and leave it there. It takes much more to protect ourselves.
Oh yeah.
And as you know, the Drakes of the world like to come out here and style bite you. So don't leave yourself vulnerable like that. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know the weather is a little inclement outside, but thank you for sitting with us today, Nequosha.
No, I'm so thankful to be in this space. And if anyone has any intellectual property or business questions, I am so open to help as best as I can. Drop me a line. I will do my best to answer you or guide you. I cannot give you no legal advice in the DM, so don't ask me.
No legal advice in the DMs. People are definitely saying thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, y'all. So see you next time. We're going to have more chats like this. So stay tuned.